Jinjer were living the truly up-and-coming band tour life, scraping enough money to get by and partying along the way. But that lifestyle caught up to them, and in a pretty shocking way. What's up, guys? It's Gamers Inc. I am back with another video. So you guys showed me nothing but love with the Lorna Shore, and you guys let me know that you want to see more of this type of content. So there was only one place that I was going after I went to the Hellfire with Lorna Shore. Up to bat next, Jinjer and Tatiana, the absolute badass. Also, shout out to Lorna Shore. They actually liked my tweet in relation to this documentary that I did previously on them. So thank you guys so much. And if you did see the video, appreciate it. Guys, if you are liking these documentary series sort of things, can you please hit that like button and hit that subscribe button? We're on the road to 5k, and it lets me know to put out more of this type of content. I appreciate you. Let's get straight into it. So Jinjer is a Ukrainian metalcore band that was initially formed in 2009 by lead vocalist Maxim, guitarist Dmitry, and drummer, I am absolutely going to butcher this name, Vyacheslav. Interestingly though, none of the founding members of the band are still in this band to this day. To be honest, when I did a bit of research as well, there's not a great deal of content that was released by that version of the band at the time, with the trio only releasing a 4-song EP in 2009 titled Objects in the Mirror Are Closer Than They Appear. Although technically the band was formed in 2009, the current band say that the true formation of the band was in 2010 when lead vocalist Tatiana and guitarist Roman joined the band. Tatiana replaced lead vocalist Maxim and bassist Eugene joining, and finally guitarist Dmitry being replaced by Alexander, expanding the band to a 5-piece. Disclaimer, during this whole documentary I am pronouncing no surnames because I'm not giving you guys the opportunity to absolutely roast me in the comments. So let's just get it out of the way, address it right now. I'm not trying to pronounce any of these surnames. Not happening, no. Regarding the Jinjer name, Eugene said there was no real meaning to the name Jinjer as far as I know. The thing is that none of us were in the band when it was actually called Jinjer, but from what I was told, it was just a name. You know, when a parents name a child John. What? They don't usually put anything into it. It's just a good name. Though later on, our fan base started finding a meaning to the name, namely associating it with the distorted guitar sound. Interesting. So Jinjer equals distorted guitar sound? Fair enough. So that version of the band at the time went on to release Inhale, Do Not Breathe in 2012, with Jinjer at the time having absolutely no financial support and having to support themselves to go on tour. By getting themselves out there by self-funding their own tours, they started to get a little bit of recognition that they did deserve, and started to get some recognition from a record label called The Leaders Record. This led to the band re-releasing Don't Breathe in 2013 in an extended format with 3 new live tracks. The band also won Best Ukrainian Metal Act in that year. I know, it's an award that we all strive towards. We can't all achieve it. Am I right? I'm right. Jinjer then went on to release their first ever studio album titled Cloud Factory in 2014, which featured a new drummer, Yevon. Whenever I hear the name Yevon, I automatically think back to you, Yevon, in Final Fantasy. Yeah, I know, it's a tangent, I'll get back to it. Cloud Factory would then later be re-released by their current record label, Napalm Records. They finally started to build a little bit of momentum and then started touring internationally. But again, common theme throughout this, it wasn't a quick come-up. Jinjer was still making their own bookings and sorting out the tour as an individual entity themselves, which just show the work and grit and desire of the band at an early stage to where they are today. At this point though, this was followed by their final founding member, guitarist Dmitry, leaving the band, and he wasn't replaced at that time, so it just left Roman as a solo guitarist. The band still continued their international tours, and as a result, the band released their second studio album titled King of Everything in 2016. From this came the absolute gem that we all know and is infamous across YouTube, Pisces. The live session of Pisces is known with every single person that reacts to any form of metal on YouTube, and is a brilliant performance from the band as a whole, but this is where Tatiana's true star power really comes to light. The video currently sits at 57 million views. The love wasn't only just being shown on YouTube, but also across the metal scene in general, with Metal Hammer in 2021 ranking Pisces at number 74 in their list of 100 greatest metal songs of the 21st century. God damn. Like many metal bands, in fairness, there was a constant roundabout of new members, but Tatiana and Roman were always consistent throughout this. Shortly after the release of King of Everything, another new drummer, Vladislav. Jesus Christ, I am struggling with these names. Joined the band due to some crazy circumstances that we'll expand on a little bit later, so make sure you keep watching. Since then, the band's lineup has remained somewhat consistent, but it's a metal band. Give it a week or so. In 2017, the band tried to continue on the upwards momentum gained from Pisces by going on 2 European tours, supporting Arch Enemy, and then a further tour in North America, supporting Cradle of Filth. Again, Jinjer were expanding their fan base based on that viral hit on YouTube. The next studio album from the band, called Macro, was more of an experimental album in which Jinjer completely switched up the style and began experimenting more with reggae and progressive rock sounds. Interestingly enough though, that is where Tatiana sort of got her come up from. She was actually in sort of a reggae band prior to Jinjer, but we'll get more onto Tatiana as we go on. This gamble in switching it up actually paid off and was praised in the top 50 metal albums of 2019 by Loudwire. Everything was on the way up for the band, but like everything in life always finds a way to give you a harsh reality check. Enter COVID-19, which put a quick stop to any of the momentum the band had at the time touring, leading the band to have to cancel all of their upcoming tours. This forced the band's hand to be a bit more creative with the content that they were putting out and build hype using different methods, leading to the release of a one-take performance of Judgment and Punishment, which again, Tatiana experiments with her vocal range and the band use more experimental sounds, specifically reggae. The video is already at 5.3 million views after only being released for a year. The lockdowns following COVID meant that the band returned to Kaska Studio Records in Kyiv, is it Kyiv? Which led to their 4th and most recent studio album, Wallflowers, being released in August 2021. This has been met with mostly positive reviews from the metal community, with the standout singles being Vortex and Mediator. A quote from Metal Injection sums up the album well, stating, "Overall, Wallflowers is enjoyable and Jinjer fans will certainly eat it up. I applaud them for bringing some serious anger and bite in the vocal booth alongside some sweet riffs, grooves and plenty of dynamics. Nonetheless, I hold concerns that the band are starting to approach a state of a repetition. I genuinely feel conflicted because this record holds some kick-ass moments, yet I'm sorely missing something significant and new for me to sink my teeth into." Now again, it's mainly positive, but there are some good points made by Metal Injection there, and it's sort of, was Jinjer going to be a one-trick pony? Did they have anything else up the sleeve? That's questions that were being asked by the metal community. It's going to be interesting to see how Jinjer respond to those sort of comments. So let's take it back a little bit, because Jinjer actually has a really interesting backstory that personally, now I know this, it makes me appreciate the band on a whole new level. And whilst the band are on absolute fire right now, this hasn't always been the case. Actually, it was quite the opposite, and it goes to show that it does in fact take 10 years to blow up overnight. Think about that. They are only really becoming mainstream recently, but that doesn't mean that the band weren't grafting since 2010 to get to this moment where they are now. The band actually had to flee from war-torn Ukraine, which we'll discuss more in depth when we get onto Tatiana, and this was a catalyst for the band as it brought them closer together. Literally closer together. The band ended up renting a house consisting of Tatiana, Eugene, Roman and then drummer Yevon. They had no money, they were broke, but it's some of the band's favourite memories living in what they called the summer house. To quote Tatiana, they still had nothing, but it was a fun nothing. Jinjer took a huge leap of faith, with all of the band members quitting the job and turning their full attention to music. The band was self-funding and self-promoting everything, literally only counting on themselves. Tatiana says, "We were all just hoping for the best, touring just with the money we had, earning nothing like €1. Sometimes we didn't have anything to eat, basically because we were broke, because everyone had quit their jobs. We had some coins to buy a beer. That was intense. But I remember those years only with a warm heart. That was a really huge challenge for us who had never done that before, but we happened to overcome all of this shit because we stayed together." Jinjer were living the truly up-and-coming band tour life, scraping enough money to get by and partying along the way. But that lifestyle caught up to them, and in a pretty shocking way. Fast forward to 2014, in which the band made a pit stop to a friend's house in Kyiv whilst on tour to party. All the band were partying at the friend's house. as you do, when Tatiana was tired, so took a taxi back home. At around 4 a.m, she received a phone call that would change the trajectory of the band and the band members' lives forever. Tatiana remembers the phone call to this day. "You have to come here because he has broken his spine. He's fallen out the window." Long story short, drummer Yevon had stayed in the kitchen, sitting on the window frame smoking while everyone else had went to sleep. Yevon himself had then fallen asleep and fell from the 3rd floor window. The people that were asleep were awoken by violent screaming, to which they went to the kitchen, noticed the noise was coming from outside the window, and they saw Yevon lying there screaming. In what turned out to be a miracle, Yevon somehow managed to survive, but at a cost. He lost complete use of his legs, and Yevon was no longer able to be a part of Jinjer. But as they've shown in many instances throughout history, the band are fighters, and Yevon still maintains a good relationship with Jinjer, although he can no longer drum and is wheelchair bound. But he's actually still touring with bands playing guitar. That is some fucking resilience. Good on you, lad. Even to this day, the band are still met with some resistance from back home in Ukraine. With a recent interview with Tatiana and Eugene from a Ukrainian YouTuber who used to work on the Ukrainian TV channels, really highlighting the divide that was still present between Jinjer and their hometown. The band were just completely taken back, and it's a really awkward interview to watch. Essentially, the guy just goes at them about subjects that they have no idea on. They grew up in Ukraine as children, and he's really trying to hammer home those sort of politics and pinning the blame on them for leaving. And ultimately, it's just a really unfair interview, but there's an interesting response from Jinjer about that. Following the interview, Tatiana says there was a tense atmosphere and very angry vibrations between us. And he was so manipulative. We had differences in our political views and stuff, but he didn't want to accept that. He was trying to show us in a very bad way. I was so pissed off for 3 days after, so I wrote a song about it. As a result of being pissed off, the band made the song Disclosure on the recent album Wallflowers. Tatiana goes on to vent about the band's treatment by media outlets in her hometown, along with general internet haters giving the band shit for daring to escape a war zone, for daring to have a female member, and daring to be successful. What a fucking badass. Tatiana is one of the most polarising figures in metal at present, and whilst her talent is clearly evident now, she really rose to fame in being quite a shy and unassuming character, and then getting behind the mic and delivering these powerhouse vocals and growls that, quite frankly, including myself, make you shit yourself. It hasn't always been easy for Tatiana though, and actually she has an incredible backstory of which we'll go into a little bit of detail about. We don't even have to go back that far to see some of the crazy shit that Tatiana had to live through, dating back to 2014, when Ukraine was essentially war-torn. Tatiana's hometown of Donetsk, I think it is, guys, was rife with conflict, following the country wanting to gain a better relationship with the EU and move away independently from Russia, leading to protests, riots, and violence. In Tatiana's own words, there was a revolution. There were huge riots in the main square of Kiev. In the end, our president, his ass was kicked out and he left the country. That was crazy. And then everything turned into chaos, and that's when people really started hating each other. This led to what Tatiana called a civil war involving Russian troops, tanks and air power. Ukrainians were attacking other Ukrainians, with those loyal to the former Soviet masters on one side and those wanting to break free and have independence and closer ties with the EU on the other. It was when the first fighter jet flew over Tatiana, who was sat on the grass having a barbecue, that she realised enough was enough and she had to run. Tatiana states that due to the pandemic and the restrictions in place, her family is still stuck in war-torn Ukraine, despite her best efforts to try and convince her mother to try and at least get across to Russia to be in a safer environment. Despite all of the craziness, Tatiana's outlook on life is extremely positive, and she uses her previous experiences to help fuel the creativity in her music. And when asked about her past, she sums it up with a very simplistic but extremely relevant quote: "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." Despite the success of Jinjer, Tatiana remains extremely humble. And when asked about her newfound fame and success, she states she only gets noticed a handful of times, and the majority of that time is due to her tattoos. Although this is in a negative light, as she says, older people that grew up in the Soviet Union still associate tattoos with prisoners and prostitutes. Prisoners and prostitutes. If that doesn't sound like a fucking EP title, I don't know what does. Tatiana explains that post-Cold War, her upbringing was very humble to say the least. While she grew up poor in some areas, she was rich in life experience, in which she goes on to talk about her discovery of music at around the age of 6, in which she raided her brother's tape collection and started listening to Nirvana, The Offspring, Metallica, and you guessed it, MC Hammer. Stop Hammer time. Fast forward a few years in Tatiana's life, and her first ever performance in front of a crowd was at her high school talent show, in which she was part of a band that performed Limp Bizkit covers, Keep Rollin' Baby. She says herself that the band didn't exactly get a lot of votes, although I imagine if she did a one take of Limp Bizkit break stuff today, it would break the internet, let's be honest. So, to summarise it, at present with the band, tonight, the band are currently on tour in the US, and they'll carry on the tour until the end of December. Then Jinjer will be kickstarting 2022 with an EU tour throughout June. And who knows what's next? Maybe some more one-take Tatiana bangers, so I can react to it from a selfish perspective. But if you've made it to the end of the video, guys, thank you so much. Honestly, this has given me a new level of appreciation for this band, and I can relate to the music a hell of a lot more than I did before. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you can, if you've made it all this way, please, if you can hit that like and subscribe button, it really helps the channel grow and it really helps us out. Please let me know in the comments who I should be doing a new documentary on. As always, appreciate the fuck out of you. It's been Gamers Inc. Peace.